Captain's Log, Stardate 246254.9. Reports are coming in from the Spectrum Quadrant about a string of very similar disturbances occurring multiple times over. These situations have been described as very confusing and as attractive as the side of a Klingon scrotum on a hot summer's day. The Enterprise has been assigned to investigate the occurrences. So yeah, that's a predictable start, isn't it? What an appalling lack of creativity I've displayed there. We are about to talk about the very strange world of the Star Trek games on the Spectrum. Ooh, but first, let's cover the series itself. Star Trek is an absolute institution and needs no introduction. I'm still going to do it though because it's the format. Running for just 3 series from 1966 to 1969, Star Trek followed the interstellar individuals of the Plate and Bogrol's Starship Enterprise and its crew. Set in the 2260s and led by the swarthy, daring Captain James T. Kirk, they had a 5-year mission to do, well, what he explains right here.
Space, the final frontier. These are the voyages of the Starship Enterprise. Its 5-year mission, to explore strange new worlds, to seek out new life and new civilizations, to boldly go where no man has gone before.
Series creator Gene Roddenberry believed in a future where the world was inclusive and the furtherment of humanity and technological advances were key to the success of mankind. And the series was made in a world where all this had been achieved. Wow, that is fiction. Christ, have you seen the world recently? It featured several cultural milestones, such as the first black female in a leading role with Nichelle Nichols as Uhura, and the first interracial kiss. Also, it featured really bad aliens with terrible makeup, as just a man with pointy ears. Funnily enough, Star Trek wasn't a big hit though, hence it being cancelled after just 3 series. It was only after the syndication and the repeats that it grew the infamously slavish fan base that it still has to this day. From here we got all the movies, the much loved spin-offs like Next Generation, the lesser loved spin-offs, a mix of really good computer games and of course not so good computer games, which brings us to this list. This is all of the Spectrum games based on Star Trek. Fan games, as you'd expect, are numerous, with the show no doubt appealing to an early computer adopter, but there are a fair amount of different software houses putting a Star Trek game out. It's hard to tell which one of these is the genuine article from this list too. The Wild West of early games meant a lot of clones were abound at the time, but at least you get a clue from the name. You know that the E.T. game called ETX isn't an E.T. game, and the Pac-Man game called Muncher isn't Pac-Man. These are all called Star Trek. They all feature Star Trek style fonts, the Star Trek spaceship, the old NCC 1701. The box art is very Star Trek-y. There's even Leonard Nimoy here appearing on this box art. As far as I can tell though, none of these were officially licensed. However, if you know differently and you can tell me which one of these is real, please do tell me in the comments below. So yeah, this episode is a bit different because normally I only cover officially licensed games, but when I started this video, I thought at least one of these would be officially licensed, but they're not. But because I think it's quite an interesting story, let's press on. What is telling about these games is that a lot of them are very similar. Aside from the odd text adventure, most of these games feature the same premise, albeit with a range of graphical styles ranging from the basic to the truly basic. In all of them, the idea is that you as the crew of the Enterprise must move around the galaxy, represented in the form of a multi-screen grid, strategically taking out myriad Klingon warships within a tight time limit. These galaxies are generated at random with this message. I reckon that message came up on God's spectrum when he created our universe. You're assisted by space bases scattered throughout these sectors who will draw the fire of the Cornish pasty scalped alien aggressors. Gameplay is impressively deep, with the player having full control over various systems, including being able to apportion power to the shields, the photons, the phasers and navigational computers. Phasers don't have to be aimed but lose power based on range, whereas photon torpedoes do have to be aimed, but they have a lot of power and they will hit them with that power no matter the range. However, it's very key to get those right coordinates programmed in, or the photon torpedo will sail harmlessly past the Klingon warship. Klingons will hightail it depending on the version should you do them enough damage. Overall, it's a bit beyond me, but I can see that for the most part these are quality games, depending on which ones you play. So what's the story behind all these Star Trek games? Why are they really similar? And why did they come out across the history of the spectrum? Well, it just so happens that they're based on another Star Trek game. Again, unlicensed, mainly because game licenses weren't a thing at all when the original game came out. You see, all these Star Trek games are based on a text-based strategy game that came out in 1971. What? A chap called Mike Mayfield wrote the original Star Trek in BASIC on an SDS Sigma 7 mainframe, intending on creating a game like 1962's Space War that could be played on a teleprinter. The game became very popular, with numerous hobby projects porting both Star Trek and its enhanced sequel, 1974's Super Star Trek, over the years, which explains where the games came from. For a game that came out in the early 70s, the depth of this game and the amount of control you have over the Enterprise and its various systems, it's incredible. I don't think I've ever played a game from pre-1978 before. A game from 1971 is mind-blowing to me. That said, this game is far from my cup of Romulan ale, but I certainly admire it. So what a weird episode of Spectrum games based on TV shows. I can't really pick out one for you that's any better than the others. Some of the later ones, like Star Trek the Computer Program and Star Trek the Computer Game, have better graphics than the others, but they are pretty much almost identical in their gameplay style. Very weird indeed. And that really is my cue to boldly go away. Next time out, we do have an official license and a much more normal episode for the 2 official Thunderbirds games. Yes, milady. Like, subscribe, and K, thanks, bye.